Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Yu-Gi-Oh! Hand deck profile for January 2025. Wanted to update the hand deck. This was the deck used by Drag in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal series, a rank 4 Xyz deck that focuses on making use of the many different hand monsters that we have for the deck to overlay into our boss monster, number 106, Giant Hand, and then also being able to just make use of the generic rank 4 engine to be able to summon out a bunch of other rank 4 monsters, but also we're making use of some other hand monsters that coincidentally work very, very well with the hand cards without really having too much in common with the cards to begin with. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the hand engine, we run 3 copies of Fire Hand. When it's in your possession and destroyed by an opponent's card and sent to the graveyard, you can target one monster they control, destroy that card, then special summon one Ice Hand from your deck. So you have destruction power with Fire Hand, being able to destroy their monsters and then float into our next monster, which is Ice Hand. When this card having the same possession destruction effect, being able to be destroyed, you target a spell or trap they control, destroy it, then you can special summon one Fire Hand from your deck. And neither one of these cards are once per turn, so as long as you have the multiple copies of Fire and Ice Hand to be able to summon out, you can keep summoning out the different monsters and destroying cards that your opponent has on the field to top off that other additional plays to go with. The other hand monsters that we run include 3 copies of Thunder Hand. If a face-up monster you control with 1600 original attack or defense is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card and sent to the graveyard while this card's in your hand or graveyard, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. And if you do, destroy one card your opponent controls. You can only use this effect of Thunder Hand once per turn, but let's say you just go through the Fire and Ice engine, or you're at the final spot where your opponent has the additional setup, then this is when you summon out your Thunder Hand to the field and then gain an additional destruction of a specific card on the field and have that additional monster. Ice Hand has the 1600 defense and Fire Hand has the 1600 attack. So you can summon this card from your hand or graveyard onto the field from either one of those cards' destruction. And a good majority of the other hand cards as well, including our Magic Hand, which we also run 3 copies of. When your opponent adds a card from their deck to the hand, except by drawing them, except during the damage step, you can send that card to the graveyard and inflict 800 damage to your opponent. This effect can only be used once while this card's face up on the field. So I like Magic Hand just for an additional resource to be able to take away from your opponent using one of your monsters on the field. There's really no cost that you have to do with this card, and for the extra burn as well, it just gives it so they have to get rid of that resource or cards they added from their deck to the hand. So if they add cards in the same time, having Magic Hand on the field is just a way for your opponent to kind of have to work around that play style and draw into some potential cards they wouldn't mind risk losing. And then also 2 copies of Prominence Hand. If you control a Magic Hand, Fire Hand, or Ice Hand, you can special summon this card from your hand. So it's just a way to extend more of your plays for an overlay summon of your monsters. We only run the 2 because of the fact that, it can't really work well with Thunder Hand. And also for the fact that just like our Fire Hand, this card is a Pyro monster. So it does have search capabilities now since the last time we updated this deck to be able to use and grab to our hand to then be able to summon out. Other hand monsters, which this one is pretty funny, just for the fact that it does work with our Thunder Hand, and that being Hand-Holding Genie. Monsters you control, your opponent control cannot target monsters for attacks except this one. This card gains defense equal to the combined original defense of all face-up defense position monsters you control. So depending on the Xyz monster you may have, Giant Hand has some pretty good defense. So if you set this card up along with Hand-Holding Genie, that is a pretty good wall that your opponent has to get over with the Hand-Holding Genie. And if they do manage to get over Hand-Holding Genie, your Thunder Hand can be summoned off of this card as well since it has 1600 defense. We're also running the 3 copies of Tin Goldfish and the 3 copies of Summoner Monk, just more ways to increase the extended engine in the deck for summoning out cards, because number 106 Giant Hand is a generic, just needing 2 level 4 monsters to be able to summon this card out. So whether we use a discard spell option or just normal summoning out Tin Goldfish and special summoning out another level 4 monster from our hand can just extend more and more plays for us to be able to use. And then also I would say Tin Goldfish is one of the better ways to summon out our Hand-Holding Genie for the defensive play as well. For the spells, I run 2 copies of Rank Up Magic, the 7th one. To activate this card, you must draw it for your normal draw. In your draw phase, reveal it. Keep it revealed until the start of main phase 1. At the start of your main phase 1, that same turn, you can special summon from your extra deck or graveyard 1 monster that has a number between 101 and 107, except for number C monsters. Then Exceed summon from your extra deck 1 number C monster with the same name as that card, but 1 rank higher. So this is to summon out our number C106 Giant Red Hand by using a Giant Hand that we either summoned earlier on, or one that is still residing in our extra deck with this spell. I run the 2 so we have a better chance to draw this card off of our draw, and then also if we open it up in our hand, we have a resource in the form of Summoner Monk to at least be able to send it to the graveyard for a special summon. Other additional spells include the 3 copies of Bonfire, because with this card we have searches for our Prominence hand and also our go-to Fire hand. So multiple searches for hand monsters with just 1 spell that is a once per turn, but still you can pick out the specific hand that you want to grab off of Bonfire. The 2 copies of Double Summon, just additional extension for our level 4 monsters in our hand, especially if you open up, Fire and Ice hand, because then you can go for the summon of 1, double summon into the other one, and then have 2 destruction plays to then be able to float into their respective monsters with each. I also run the 1 copy of Instant Fusion and the 1 copy of Ready Fusion, so we have targets for our fusion monsters to be able to summon out as additional level 4 monsters onto the field as well. And for some additional spells, we have the 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent, the 1 copy of Monster Reborn, and the 1 Call by the Grave. More generics, but if our opponent does respond with a hand trap during our own turn, with Triple Tactics, we can at least either draw into more cards or rip resources out of their own hand. Monster Reborn to summon back cards to use, and Call by the Grave to stop any hand traps that they may try to use against us also. For the traps, running 2 copies of Rocket Hand. Target 1 attack position monster you control with 800 or more attack. Equip this card to that target. It gains 800 attack. You can send this equipped card to the graveyard. Target 1 face-up card on the field. Destroy it. Then change the attack of the monster this card was equipped to 0. Also, its battle position cannot be changed. You can only use 1 Rocket Hand effect per turn, and only once that turn. So what I like about the Rocket Hand combo is you have a target in the form of either one of your Fire Hand or Ice Hands, being able to target that card, equip it to it, gaining the attack. And then I would say this just gives you more of a guaranteed Fire Hand destruction, because then you can use the Rocket Hand to then send this card, target face-up card on the field, destroy it. It'll change the attack to Fire Hand to 0, but then you can swing Fire Hand into a guaranteed majority of other monsters. Since it has 1600 attack, there's a chance it could just swing over cards, avoiding the destruction of itself. So then you'll have a destruction off of Rocket Hand and Fire Hand also. And then lastly, the 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, just more of an effect negation for our opponent's monsters by using additional traps on the field also. For the extra deck, we're running 2 copies of number 106 Giant Hand. When a monster effect is activated on your opponent's field, quick effect, you can detach 2 materials from this card, then target 1 effect monster your opponent controls while this card is facing on the field. That affects monster's effects are negated and cannot change its battle position. More or less a lockdown card, being a quick effect as well, being able to respond to your opponent's effect monsters with this Xyz monster on the field, with our ranked up version being the number C106 Giant Red Hand. If this card has a number monster as Xyz material, gains the effect of once per turn during either player's turn. When a card or effect is activated on the field, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card. If you do, negate the effects of all our face-up cards currently on the field until the end of this turn. So if you use your Giant Hand, being able to then go into your Chaos Giant Red Hand, and then have that 1 detach of that Xyz monster, being able just to negate the effects of every other face-up card currently on the field until the end of this turn. So more or less, just a good way to shut down your opponent for more cards they have. For more of the generic Xyz, 1 copy of Baguska, 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Tornado Dragon, the 1 Exciton Knight, along with the 1 Castel and the 1 Dugaris, with some others being the number 80 Rhapsody and Berserk, the Infernal Flame Vixen, needing 2 Pyro monsters. So with Prominence Hand and Fire Hand, you have another monster for this card to have more of an attack boost and banish options for your opponent's cards. The 1 copy of Zeus to finish off the Xyz monsters, with the rest of the extra deck being the 1 Rare Fish, the 1 Carbonala Warrior, and then 1 SP Little Knight as just a link option to go into if need be, if we're out of Xyz options. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, as I mentioned before, the big play comes down to the destruction power of both your Fire Hand and Ice Hand, but If you also just want to go for the Xyz play, you have the search option with Bonfire now if you have one of your other hands to then grab the respected one you need. So if you already have Prominence hand, you can grab Fire Hand from your hand as well, giving you an easy search to set up the normal summon, special summon play, and then overlay your 2-hand monsters into the needed summon, which I would say is the most common in the deck, being your number 106 Giant Hand. And then from there, you have the additional setup for your other monsters, depending on what you want to summon out off of these cards, playing off of the rank up 7 play. It all comes down to more or less just a generic Xyz deck that you can make use of all of the level 4 monsters to be able to summon out. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.